As an American, it should be embarrassing that some of us have to envy the Russians and their leadership under Vladimir Putin. Why is it that only Russia has written into their laws that there will be no LGBT or gay content given over or used inside of productions for children or their games? Why is it that they are allowed to push LGBTQ propaganda onto children in the United States and other Western nations, but it's only banned in Russia? That makes Russia the envy of the West. Roblox has been very controversial because they have literally caught thousands of people, adults, that get on there for the purpose of grooming, doing pedophilic role play. It's basically been a hub for online predators. And unfortunately, because here in the West, we're kind of hands off when it comes to parenting now, a lot of people have no idea their children are being groomed. But then later on, you're wondering why your child is gay. You're wondering why your child has all these other issues. And then you're going to be wondering why you don't have grandkids. In other parts of the world, to be an adult, to have a family, to have children means everything. If you expose that to children too young, this whole prospect of being gay or being trans, they're never going to grow up and develop into normal, healthy adults. They're never going to have families. They're also going to be very unpatriotic. If there is a conflict, they're not going to want to fight in it. They're not going to want to contribute. They're not going to want to build communities, and they're not going to build societies. If you break down children and their minds, you pretty much can break down an entire world, an entire society. And that's what we're seeing happen right here in the West. I went to a restaurant a couple of weeks ago. It was probably about 15 people that I seen work there. Every male that was under the age of 30 that worked in this restaurant, every single one of them were gay. Their parents will never have grandchildren. And we all know that the gay agenda is also the depopulation agenda, because eventually, if that's your lifestyle by choice, that's fine. But one day, it happens to most of them. They wake up and then they realize that they're not living for anything and that the sex they're having is pointless. A child or will never come out. They'll never be a husband. They'll never have a family. And those people self-delete. You see it a lot in our society. We have high suicide rates because it's a lot of people that are confused and struggling with their sexuality. So if you can convince an entire society to be confused, well, then you don't even really need a war if you can get a lot of them to just, suicide themselves. We're seeing that happen a lot in our societies as well. But they go after the children and they start young for a reason. Let's take a look.
If you haven't heard of the game Roblox, your kids probably have. And tonight, a warning about the parental and online settings that every parent should hear, as a Spokane child was targeted by a predator online. When we were kids, parents warned us about strangers in vans. Kids now have to be aware of strangers online and on video games. Good evening, I'm Nia Wong.
And I'm Aaron Luna. This isn't an internet conspiracy theory. It happened to a child right here in Spokane. A stranger targeted him through a video game chat and made disturbing threats and demands. In a 4 News Now investigation, Caitlin Knapp explains how the predator groomed and tricked the boy and what you can do to make sure this doesn't happen to your child.
Well, this is the video game Roblox. If your kids don't play it, their friends probably do. The site has more than 48 million active users. Most are between 9 and 13. Anyone can download it. Kids can also chat with people they don't know. And that's when one Spokane boy ran into trouble.
Video games bring children to another world, to experience new things, and even chat online with friends. But that can leave the door open for someone with more sinister motives.
It's certainly happening more and more often.
That's what happened in Spokane to a child playing the popular game Roblox. Search warrant documents say that's how a predator began a conversation with the 9-year-old boy, a conversation that escalated for 4 months. The stranger even pretended to be the boy's pastor, further gaining his trust.
So there's a lot of different approaches they take, but always employing some kind of deception, some kind of threat, or promises of money or gifts to get that young person to open up and talk to them.
Then the conversation took an even darker turn. The stranger learned about the boy's past and threatened to shoot him, knowing one of the child's family members shot themselves. Then the predator asked the boy for nude pictures and video. The 9-year-old sent 25 naked photos and 5 videos to this stranger, who then asked the boy to introduce them to more friends. When introduced to a 9-year-old girl, search warrant documents say the predator tried the same thing. She didn't send them anything and told a school counselor who went to police.
They shouldn't be afraid to come forward when somebody is asking for these pictures, or even if they've sent these pictures. It's okay to talk to parents.
9 years old, being convinced to take nude photos and send them to a stranger that you met on Roblox. I don't care how much money this app brings in, it should be banned. And any propaganda where you see anything about the LGBT and all this weird gay trans stuff, it should be completely blocked from the eyes of children altogether. I know my cousin and I, we play a game called Dead by Daylight, and we were noticing on some of the hooks where they hang you, there was one of the weird gay terrorist flags. That's what we call them. And I'm like, why is this flag in this video game? So we deleted it. These kids are being indoctrinated, and it's sitting in their subconscious. It's not going to fare well. Children are very malleable. Their brains are sponges. Any too much confusion, it can destroy them. It can ruin their prospects for the future. It doesn't take much to destroy the human mind. Humans are simple creatures. We've lived a certain type of way since the beginning of our history. This whole trying to reinvent the wheel and live a different way, this is all new. And it doesn't work, obviously. It leads to death and destruction. And all this pandering to pedophiles and gay people, these are gay adults that you're arguing with about access to your children, not access to their children, because remember, they're gays. They don't have children. They need your child to become gay because they cannot reproduce and create more gay people on their own. So they have to target your children. I don't think anybody would debate me right now when I say that a lot of our institutions in this world now are controlled by gay people. The World Economic Forum, which is looking to replace the Zionists with the control over a lot of our institutions, from the top down, Klaus Schwab, Noel Harari, even Macron, they're all gay people, gay men. And then you wonder why you see this agenda being pushed everywhere. But who do all those people hate more than they hate Trump? Vladimir Putin. And this is why.
Roblox has reportedly been banned in Russia due to inappropriate content that can negatively impact the spiritual and moral development of children. We'll give you one guess what they actually mean. Yes, disseminating information about LGBT topics is considered extremist in Russia and therefore banned outright. So as far as Putin's concerned, it's bye-bye Roblox.
I 1,000% again agree with Vladimir Putin. And I keep telling people, Americans have more in common ideologically with a Russian than we do with Europeans. Europeans don't believe in freedom of speech. They don't believe in protecting their borders. And everything is just being pushed to the gay agenda. They believe in sexualizing children now. And a lot of this stuff, and think about it, the grooming gangs are allowed to roam the streets in the UK. But if you talk about it or criticize the grooming gangs and bring them up and you're white, you'll be arrested and jailed. That's nothing like us here in the West. We don't like all this gay stuff. It's are politicians in a very small group, which are the Zionists, unfortunately, that have been pushing this agenda the hardest. But it's very anti-American because in America, we believe in protecting children. That's what our Second Amendment is for. So when Russia saw that this was a very large exploit to groom and manipulate and convert children into gay kids, that's why they're having to ban this, which is probably the healthiest thing they can do. I'll be honest. If you look how we're all just being surrounded by all this technology that's looking to pollute the mind of children, it seems like one day we're going to just have to pull the plug and just go back to living like the Amish just to protect our society. Because in a way, we're destroying ourselves. Again, the gay agenda is the depopulation agenda.
The Roskomnadzor, that's the Russian government department responsible for monitoring, controlling, and censoring media, also claimed that the sharing of intimate images and child harassment were reasons for the ban. Yes, there's been global concerns over child safety on the platform for some time now, with countries like Turkey already banning Roblox over this. But this time it's more likely to do with Russia wanting to keep its as-per-usual iron grip on social media platforms. The Roskomnadzor already threatened last week to ban WhatsApp outright after they already limited calls on the platform. And did you know that Duolingo removed all LGBT references from the application so they could keep operating in the country? So will Roblox just accept the ban, or will they do as Duolingo did? We put the question to them ourselves and received a statement back about their increasing safety measures with no mention of the LGBT issue. Roblox.
I want all LGBTQ, elemental, P, pedo, everything removed from everywhere. If that's your lifestyle and you want to be, if you're an adult and you want to seek it out, you should be able to go find it. I don't think it should be easily accessible by children. These children eventually grow up. Imagine being a young man, you're turning 21, and you have nightmares about how when you were 13 and 14 or 10, somebody manipulated you and convinced you that you were gay short term, and you have to live with the fact that you did homosexual acts as a child. A lot of adult men cannot they can't grasp that and live with it. These men grow up to commit suicide. It's horrible. It traumatizes you there because in a way you're also the victim of abuse as well, because somebody typically older than you convinced you of something that was bull, and you go through little phases, but eventually you grow out of it. But it still happened. It's a part of your past. It's traumatic. And then you're expected to have kids, and then you're expected to pretend like everything is normal, but you have all these issues in your mind. You know, the people that design these systems, they know what they're doing. They know how to crack you. They know how to destroy you. People like Vladimir Putin and the Russians have figured out what they were doing, and they figured out a way to counter it and block it the best they could. But here, there's zero regulation when it comes to LGBT, gay, pedophilic propaganda being pushed on children. That is a problem. If the Russians banned it, we can and we should. It's our duty. But then again, that's why they don't want someone like me to ever become the governor or the mayor or the president. Because none of this would be allowed. Because you have to think of the greater good in society. And if you just look at how we're every day, everything around us is being destroyed. These children have lots of issues. People are not having children anymore. And it's not just because things are expensive. Life's always been kind of hard. But it's just that now some people, they hate themselves because of things that happened to them when they were children. And when you grow up and you see people walking around with different color hair and they say all this weird stuff, but these people are battling demons. You know, when they were in elementary school and in junior high, people told them to experiment with other boys and other girls, and it really damaged these people. And they're all around us now. That's why you see all these trans assassins and trans shooters and these people are mentally ill now. They're mentally destroyed. And when you're a young person and you're mentally gone and you realize, I'm never going to have a wife. I'm never going to have children. So that means I'm never going to get a job and be able to work and be normal and be able to afford a home. I'm not going to be able to function in society. So they take their anger out on society. They have nothing to live for. That's why my issues with those politicians that came out and were like, you should ignore the orders of Trump. You know, all those politicians are gay, right? There's a couple of the men that have kids, but they're also gay. The women are lesbians. No husbands, no children. Just like the lesbian, what is it, the governor of Oregon? The police chief in New Orleans, she's a lesbian. There's a huge push of gay people that are literally looking to pull the fabric of our society apart because they're angry. They have nothing to live for. Again, humans have lived a certain way throughout history. Our families give us purpose. Our children give us life. They inspire us, but also we want a stable, sound society because we want to make sure our children have somewhere that at least resembles where we lived when we grew up, especially if you're here in the United States. These people don't have those same motives. They have no families. They have no children. They're thinking about themselves, but also they're so angry, they just want to watch everything burn. Even if they're in it, they still want to watch it burn because they're selfish people and no one wants to die alone. So you got to understand the enemy we're fighting here. And people want to be in denial about it. Oh, Rico, you can't say that. Yes, I can. Because I can prove it. I can literally give out countless examples. Why do you think you see all these trans shooters and all these? And then who are they talking to in the military when they're telling you to ignore the orders of Trump? They're talking to disgruntled Black soldiers and they're talking to gay soldiers. That's why the people that keep sticking their head out, celebrating Charlie Kirk's death and saying all this crazy stuff, they're either Black or gay. So what they want to see is, did Peak Headset purge all of their support? Because they're looking for mutineers. They're looking for people to mutiny against our government, to go against Trump, to ignore orders, to sabotage, our bases, missions, or maybe kill other soldiers within the barracks. We don't know, but they're doing a loyalty test. That's why they're making these announcements. They're putting up billboards. They're trying to convince you to join them. It's no coincidence that there are a bunch of gay politicians and there's other gay people behind. There's like this huge community. And they want war with straight people. And what are they fighting over? They want children. They want access to your children. Trump's in a way. Kirk was in a way. Because Kirk talked about it openly. The policies in California to decriminalize pedophilia, that hurt their cause. It hurt it bad. Trump talked about it too. Those policies were making their way east from California. It all started with Scott Wiener. He was able to get, Senate Bill 145 passed in California, where if you're an adult and you're caught having underage sex with a child, if you're gay and the kid's gay, you no longer have to register as a sex offender. Look it up. So it's not like they're making it legal, but they're just decriminalizing it and removing the punishment, removing the penalties. Being on that sex offenders list is a big damn deal. And they were saying that list disproportionately affected the gay community. So instead of talking to the gay community about not breaking the law and targeting kids, they rather would change the laws. In California, corruption, Newsom, it's all there. So you got to understand, there is a war for children. This is all about kids, everything. The war in the Ukraine with the Russians and it's all about people that host pride parades versus people that don't. And what is the prize? Access to children legally without having to think about it. They're setting up transgender sanctuary cities where you could kidnap a kid in another state and take them to one of these jurisdictions in, say, California, and there's nobody can do nothing about it. They won't even be considered kidnapping. You can get them surgery. You can get them surgery and everything. And it's a transgender sanctuary. But you're taking someone's child from their parents in another state and trafficking them to California. But if you're doing it into a sanctuary state, the waters become muddy and you can't even prosecute. And most people have no idea that this is happening. Because we bury our head in the sand, we turn on the sports tubes and we watch the football games and We watch the nonsense reality TV. We don't pay attention to what's happening around us. And then we wake up and wonder how we lost everything. Well, we lose everything when we don't pay attention. We lose everything when we don't talk about these subjects. And we let people who are gay for the most part, or black, literally shame us, shame us into submission by calling us names because we say we don't want our kids to feel like victims and we don't want our kids to be gay. I don't want my son to be gay. So now I'm a bad person. And then if you care what these people think, then you'll adjust your behavior and then you'll pretty much give up your child. I mean, if it worked on a gangster like Snoop Dogg, you saw that 180 he did on the topic. You think it won't work on you? Shaming Americans is a very powerful weapon, more powerful than guns. And I think people are starting to learn that and they're exploiting that. But luckily for the Russians, their soldiers, their men will be fathers. They will have wives. They will have something to fight for. They will protect their country. We don't have anything to fight for over here anymore. We're barely holding on by a thread to anything we can remember from 30 years ago. We don't even have that anymore. So, yeah, that's why the Russian Federation just whooped all of NATO, and America doesn't want to get involved in the fight. The Ukraine is done. Zelensky's about to flee. It's over. But they have strong men, strong families. They're not confused about gender ideology. They don't think they're all gay like our soldiers do over here. But we haven't been put to the test lately. So we don't really know how weak our military is. That's why Pete Hegseth wanted to remove the weakest links we have. But the demoralization has happened. We're getting more people registering for the military, but it's not the same like it was before. So that's why banning all this LGBTQ content for children, it's a longer play, and it actually makes the most sense in the world. We should do the same here. I envy Russia and the Russians. I wish I could do the same for my country. I shouldn't have to leave my country to keep this propaganda from the children in my country. But, I'm making these videos, and hopefully this information gets out and we can make some changes. So do me a favor, like and subscribe. The Single Boyfriend on YouTube or any of these other platforms, The Single Boyfriend. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.